Hello everybody, it is Obscure Nick, and today we are going to be talking about games animation era of Ren and Stimpy. That's right, we are on the third season of Ren and Stimpy now, from 1993 to 1994. So as you know, let's deep dive and thrive. In case you don't already know, Ren and Stimpy is a Nickelodeon show, one of the first original Nicktoons from August 11th, 1991, along with Rugrats and Doug. The show was definitely one of the most controversial shows of all time for the network, along with a controversial creator, John Krisfalucsi. But we also have another co-creator, Bob Camp, who had a heavy hand on the series as well. And if you need more information on this overall general of the series, just go to my previous videos on it. Now, the third season of Ren and Stimpy began airing on November 20th, 1993. This was the first season John K. was not a part of, and now the show is in control with Bob Camp. This is where many fans believe that the show began declining because John K. was no longer the creator in charge, and it was handled a bit differently. And in today's video, we're going to discuss the standout episodes from the third season. And there are quite a few episodes here that I enjoy personally, and some that I don't care for so much as well. But there are some that I believe are solid episodes, and then some that push the limits still, but not to the degree of the last season. I think John K. pushed ideas so far sometimes that it was just not anymore a kid's show, if you know what I mean. And I think here they bring it back to being a kid's show, yet also still being creative. It just doesn't have John Krisfalucsi's mind in it. But I do think there's more heart in this season than the previous one. The first standout episode, I would say, is No Pounce Today. I felt this episode was just overall a fun one, and I felt bad for Stimpy going out when he didn't want to, because I feel I can relate to that, because there are a lot of times where I'm getting pushed by someone else to go out, and I'm just like, oh my god, not now. So I felt this episode was relatable when we have to get up early and even on our worst days, and we have to walk outside no matter what, and the struggle is real. So this relates to me back then, and it relates to me now, pretty much. Another one that I find really hilarious, but it's also kind of like risque, it's one of the more risque ones of this season, is called Rens Pecks, which is about his upper chest, and his, muscles. And this one I actually remember watching as a kid because it was at the beach, and I remember an episode that was at a beach, and thinking about how our fat inside us is like where Jello comes from, and it turned me off from eating Jello, I'm not gonna lie, because it's just, this one's a really grotesque one in my opinion, but I thought it was kind of funny. Here's the thing, when I thought of Jello after this episode, I thought I was putting fat inside of me, and I didn't realize that just disintegrates into water, but yeah, that just turned me off from Jello for the longest time, especially like red Jello and really thick Jello, but the only one I would eat was blue Jello just because electric blue was my favorite color at that time, so I thought things all electric blue were good, like Fanta Blue Raspberry. We should really get into obscure products that no longer exist, because Fanta Blue Raspberry was the best as a kid in the 2000s, so let me know if you've ever had Fanta Blue Raspberry and tell me that wasn't the best, because I would love to hear your opinion on that. But I felt this episode was about body image and putting yourself through something that you think you're gonna like, but you may not like so much afterwards. The thing that stands out to me most was Ren getting stitched in his behind. That image just never gets out of my head either. So, okay, this next episode's one of my favorites of all time. I definitely think this could have passed as a season 1 episode in my opinion. And I just love it so much, and it's one of my favorites because it sticks out to me. It's within the reins. It reminds me of a season 1 episode like Space Madness just because of the visuals. And it's called Jerry the Belly Button Elf. And it's about where Stimpy's going into another world, and the world is being his own belly button, and which I love this trippy psychedelic vibe, and I just vibe with it, and I love it, and it's so much fun. I love the song Climb Inside My World. It's something to listen to late at night in the bathtub. even though I hate baths, this would get me into a bathtub just to listen to this trippy vibe and just to zone out. I just love when Ren and Stimpy goes into the imaginary world and just goes into this element of surrealism, very MC Escher type of thing, or Salvador Dali type of vibe. That's what this specific song and video gives me, because you see a lot of things melting, you see Stimpy melting, and it's just so trippy and cool overall. Some other standout episodes, I felt this episode was mocking John K, which is called Stimpy's Cartoon Show, which is about talentless Ren becomes an obnoxious producer of hardworking Stimpy's cartoons and takes it too far. And I feel this was like something the staff was like shading towards John K, because John K, as we have heard in the previous video, that he wasn't the easiest person to work with. So, and this is about a producer taking the idea too far. This was a story written by John K, and apparently, but I feel this was done as a joke before John K was fired from the season before, and maybe he was trying to say, this is how the people I work with feel about me, but I also feel this is how the workers really feel about me. And I think they all knew what environment they were in on both sides of the conversation. Another one that I feel that was quite mocking was called Ren's Bitter Half. And Stimpy's new generic formula physically splits Ren into two halves called Evil Ren and Indifferent Ren, which I feel it's mocking John K, because working with John K seems like you're dealing with multiple people, and you wonder why, with the way he does stuff, and you wonder why he does it, because it just feels like you have several versions of him just within his work in general, but also with working with him in general. But I feel season 3 was overall a different direction in terms of creativity. I feel that the animation was slightly more polished in this season. And I feel this is the right spot of where a kids show could go, because I feel Bob Kemp, I think I said this before, but Bob Kemp, in my opinion, was the heart of the show, and that's why it was accepted into Nickelodeon. I don't see as much violence, but I do see abuse in the work plays to a degree, but not within violence itself. But within the storylines, I think abuse in the workplace is a very relatable thing that many people go through, and I think that what they got it at in this season was doable enough for a kids show, and I think there are some really solid moments in this season, and I think I like the stories from this season. And this is the first season where I feel like it belongs in Nickelodeon. And you know, it doesn't feel like a total kid show, but it's not always fully a dark adult cartoon type of show. There's a good balance, and I see why it lasted a couple more seasons after this one, because I think they came out with a good product. Bob Kemp was a great leader, and he kept the show on board, and we will get into why that is in another video further in this series about John K and Bob Kemp's relationship, and it will kind of be even more telling when you hear it from Bob Kemp himself. He made, I think as well, another thing is Bob Kemp made the characters more relatable to the everyday human, or it can relate to an adult or even a kid that's growing up. I think they got the sweet spot of Ren and Stimpy in this season, and there's a good balance of everything. I think Games Animation did a pretty decent job. It's not to the same level of season 1 and 2 because it doesn't have the same shock value, which is why some hardcore fans were probably disappointed with this season. But I think artistically and story-driven wise, and for a Nickelodeon show, this is the perfect input of everything. So anyways, this has been a retrospective on Ren and Stimpy Season 3, the beginning of Games Animation era. These are just my thoughts. Let me know in the comment below what you think. And I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in the next video coming up soon.